Both of these items are a piece of steel. The one on the right used to be the one on the left.
I got the basic shape at the starting of it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to taper this a little bit. Then I'm going to start back here pulling the knife, pulling the edge out.
Join me for part 1 of a trip to the blacksmith shop. 9 million acres of forest, 1,700 miles of continuous shoreline, 4,300 lakes, 12,000 miles of streams, more than 300 waterfalls, 15 counties, 2 time zones, and 1 area code. Welcome to the Upper Peninsula. Welcome to 906 Outdoors. Just off one of the Upper Peninsula's many backcountry roads, on the banks of the 10 Mile Creek, is a small shop surrounded by machinery, tools, and iron from an era long gone. Smoke coming from the chimney is a sure sign that blacksmith George Putvin is busy inside transforming some ordinary piece of iron into something one of a kind. This journey begins with an ordinary cultivator tooth and ends with a one-of-a-kind work of art. We'll tag along from start to finish and find out how this turns into this.
We're going to make a knife blade and hammer it out, and it's going to be a forged knife blade. Today we're just going to be kind of in the recycling business. We're going to be using an old cultivator tang. We'll be straightening it out and then eventually cut a piece out, hammer into a blade. They use a lot of different stuff. Kerosene to get a fire going. They use a lot of other stuff too. I don't know, I like cedar. Works really good. Okay, what I'm using is coke from the last fire I had in here. And then it starts a lot easier. And then I put the green coal on there. And then when you see the smoke and that coming off of there, that's earthy matter. And that's what's burning the flames and stuff. Some of that is sulfur also. What makes good coal for a forge is low in sulfur and ash count and high in BTUs. You try to get coal that's around 1,300 BTUs per pound if you can get it. It's pretty hard to find nowadays unless you go out by Pennsylvania and stuff. But we got to burn most of it off so we don't have much of a flame. And then the residue that's left is coke, and that's where primarily what we use for heating the steel with is the coke. If you try to put a piece of steel in there right now and try to heat it, steel has a terrible thirst for sulfur, and the sulfur that's in there could be absorbed by the steel, and especially high carbon steel, and it causes it to crack and stuff on you, which you don't want. And it comes from a cultivator. And a very good steel for a knife blade. You can get that 5160 from a lot of different things, old car springs and stuff. There's a big discussion about which is better, a stock removal or a forged blade, but I guess the jury's out on it that forged blade does make a better knife. Simple reason, I guess, is because it packs the steel more than what stock removal would do. Both knives, they are very good knives. There's been a lot of stock removal knives that are very, very good too, of course. Stock removal is when you basically just take a piece of steel and you grind a blade out of it, then you heat treat it. But a lot of them, what they do now is they heat treat the steel first, then they grind the blade to shape. And you got to be very careful doing that so you don't run any tempering colors in the blade when you're doing it. Forge, you pack the steel as you're hammering it, and actually towards the end of the hammering procedure, you hit it when it's not real cold, but fairly cold towards the end, and that really packs the steel, and that enhances the ability for the knife to hold an edge for a longer time, depending on the rest of the heat treating and everything is done right.
.906 Outdoors is brought to you in part by the Island Resort and Casino.
Experience the excitement this football season. Be where the action is. Bet America Sportsbook at Island Resort and Casino. Visit Team McSee Sports Bar to browse the latest lines and betting options, or build a bet on your time using Bet Builder online. Find everything you need to know on the Sportsbook page at islandresortandcasino.com. So grab your friends and get in on the action, because there's a new game in town. Bet America Sportsbook at Island Resort and Casino.
Now we'll take and straighten out that longer piece here. Well, you try to kind of go from one side to the other side and not favor one side too much. Because if you do, you might end up the blade warping on you when you go to quench it. People that end up with warped blades, really you can't really figure out exactly what's causing it. But I kind of suspect it might be from over-hammering it on one side or the other. Because you know, steel has a memory. You hammer it too much in one spot and not in the other, and you don't normalize or anneal it properly, that stress is going to cause that blade to probably warp on you when you get it done. A lot of times you can straighten them out and you go and heat treat again and they'll warp again in the same spot. This here hay rake tang is an import all the way from Garden, Michigan. You see there's a lot of different hammers here. I use a lot of these different hammers for different things. This one I don't use too much. I use it every once in a while. It's a handmade hammer by Anton Hahn. He was a blacksmith in the logging camps for a good many years. I guess he came to this country from Poland in around 1870s. And he grew up around the area and became a blacksmith died in 1956. I got his anvil and his hammer. There is a picture of him someplace. I've seen the picture, but the lady wouldn't let me. It was an elderly woman at the time, that was years ago, but she wouldn't let me make a copy of it. It had something to do with the spirit or something, I don't know. Now another thing while we're doing this, if for some reason if I'd heat at a point where I was getting sparks off of it, you might as well just forget about using that piece because burn the carbon out of it. It won't be much good for a knife blade. Now we got it straightened out, we'll take and cut a slab of it off. And after we get the slab cut off, then we'll start hammering out a knife blade. Tend the fire here a little bit first. What we'll do now is we'll cut a strip out of here, usually about 1 inch. Okay, now we got a usable piece of steel. I could have left it like it is and then hammer it down, but I don't care to do that too much because I think what I'm doing is doing some damage to the grain of the steel by doing that. That's why I don't do it. Then this here little piece here, you can use that for a real small knife, kitchen knife or something. I'm going to take and start hammering this in, but first of all, I have to take and round these edges here before I start. Now we got both sides rounded out a little bit. The next step now will be I'll start back in this area here. A lot of them they'll put a nick in here where they start. It'd be from here back would be where the ricasso area is, but I just go ahead and start here and then I figure out how far back I want to go for the ricasso, and then I'll start hammering out the tang. It's going to be a fixed blade hunting knife. It's going to end up being. So first thing would be is to start shaping the blade here a little bit. What I usually use is they call them simple steels, and what they mean by simple steels is that you can do the heat treating and everything else without any sophisticated equipment like a Paragon furnace where you can program the perimeters in there, and they gotta be heated over a certain period of time for this thickness and then cooled at a certain period of time over the thickness too. A lot of your stainless steels and your CPMs, and they call these simple steels. Why they call it simple steels, I don't know why, but they built the nation. So, so now what we're going to start doing is we'll start on the end here, and anyway, this is going to be what I'm trying to do is get this down here to a point, and actually this is going to be the top of the blade here. I'll explain to you a little bit here. What I'm trying to do is get this come right down to here. Once I start getting it down there, I'm going to draw it a little bit to a taper it a little bit to the point. And actually, this is going to be the top of the blade. Once I start drawing the blade out, this is going to want to go right up. What makes a blade cut is the carbon content in it. Of course, the higher the carbon content, probably the better it would be for cutting, but then it probably wouldn't be so user-friendly neither. Like out in the field, you get a lower carbon that's still considered a high-carbon steel. It probably more user-friendly out in the field to resharpen, whereas you probably have to carry diamond stones and stuff in your pocket to sharpen them, you know.
Time for a 906 Outdoors Cooking Wild Seasonings tip. Cooking Wild Seasonings makes some delicious sausage, but don't be afraid to make it your own. Mix up a batch of summer sausage and separate it into 5 1-pound portions. Leave one as is. Experiment with the other 4 by adding some of your favorite seasonings, maybe some smoke flavoring or some garlic. Heat things up a bit with some cayenne and red pepper flakes. Try sweetening it up a little. Don't be afraid to make it yours. Get started by visiting cookingwildseasonings.com.
I got the basic shape at the starting of it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start drawing from this. First I'm going to taper this a little bit. Then I'm going to start back here pulling the knife, pulling the edge out on both sides. Well, that'll be our next step. I'm going to try and make this be about a 4-inch blade. It has a tendency to bend on you when you're doing that. You got to keep it straight. And the same thing when you hammer the blade out. It'll want to start bending on you. You'll have to make sure to keep straightening it before it gets too far. See, now it's starting to get tapered a little bit. It's getting tapered through here. And I'm not going to taper it any more than that because then I'll be losing the ability for that to be able to turn up. Now the next step is going to be start pulling the blade out back here. Well, I bounce the hammer in between, like say you're hitting and then you bounce the hammer, and you pick the hammer up again. At the end of the day, you might pick up, you won't have to pick up a ton of hammer that you would normally had to pick up. You know, if you started from dead stop. By leaving it bounce like that, it just naturally comes back up again. Starting to bend up now a little bit. I'm going to have to straighten that, make sure it don't get out of control too much there. Getting there, slow but sure. I'm going to leave this a little thick here. There's a real old saying in it, and it holds true too. It's he who will a good edge win must forge thick and grind thin. There's a lot of truth to that. The last little bit there I'm going to do is I'll just pack the edge. There, that's going to be about the basic shape, starting of it. And now what we're going to do is draw out the tang. We'll have to cut it off here and then start drawing the tang out. I could cut it through, but maybe pieces will go flying. Be on the safe side. got to kind of do it on both sides because one side wants to flatten out more than the other. That was one of the things from the Industrial Revolution. They came up with a trip hammer. And, well, what happened is the blacksmiths, how the blacksmiths got a hold of them, it was out of necessity because they couldn't afford to have an apprentice anymore after the Industrial Revolution started. So anyway, that's why they went to he didn't have a strike man anymore. So he had to have some means for a strike person. And so he went to the power hammer. Then eventually what I'll do is I'll sharpen up them corners with a file. But this is a little 25-pound trip hammer, and how it's gauged is this hammerhead here weighs 25 pounds. Then it's powered by a 1 horsepower motor, so if you could swing a 25-pound sledgehammer about 250 times a minute or better, with 1 horsepower behind you, keep up this guy. As you can see, if I was to do that by hand, I'd be there for quite a while. See that little bit of steel I had on the end? Ended up to be a lot of tang, eh? This is going to be hidden tang. I think I'll probably use a deer antler for the handle on this one. But that's more than the length of a handle there, for sure. I'm going to leave this quite wide here, because once I get it into the handle, I'll have to drill a hole through there to put a pin to hold the blade onto the handle. What we're going to do is heat it up to non-magnetic, and what that means is we're bring the temperature up on this blade to about 1475, 1500. And at that particular point, it will not attract the magnet anymore. It goes through different stages in the steel because of this, and that's what you want. You want this to happen. So, see, it won't stick. Oh yeah, it's sticking now. See, we gotta get her hotter than that. The point wasn't quite up there anyway. It's called normalizing. What you're doing is you're taking all the stress out of that steel, that from the hammering. We're gonna do this 3 times. So, that should be. There, it's not magnetic. Oh, here it would be. Now we'll just leave that come down to room temperature. And we'll do that 3 times. After this particular process, then we'll heat it up again to non-magnetic. Then we put it in vermiculite until it comes down the ebb in temperature. And we do that also 3 times. Then after that, we'll be hardening it and then drawing a temper on it. And it's all annealed. Be nice and soft. I did before I anneal, I ground the edge off here a little bit first, and I ground the back a little bit. The next step will be grinding it to shape. The blade should be ready. If it ain't, we did something wrong.
Today's show is brought to you in part by Rapid River Knife Works.
Rapid River Knife Works is the largest custom knife factory showroom in Michigan. The 10,000 square foot showroom is awesome. Hunting knives, pocket knives, and kitchen knives. Watch your custom knife being made and engraved. Free laser engraving with your personal message or company logo. Lifetime warranty on every knife and free sharpening. Plus, visit Rapid River Knife Works gift shop for Stormy Cromer and RRK gear. Bring the family and visit Rapid River Knife Works today.
First of all, we normalized it 3 times and annealed it 3 times in the vermiculite. And now this is the last time we left the 3rd time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the blade out now. And we have a K-wool on top here. That's an insulation too. And then I got K-wool all the way around the sides. Then the vermiculite in the center. There's a blade. It's All the stress is relieved out from the hammering, and when you anneal it, you're relieving all the stress in that particular piece of steel. If you wouldn't take that precaution of doing this, you probably would end up with a warped blade or an inferior blade. You should normalize it and then anneal it before you harden it. But the first thing I got to do while it's still nice and soft, the metal is soft, is I have taken square these edges, square this up here, so it's nice and even all the way across, so that when I go to put the guard on it, I'll be able to get a real nice snug fit. And how I accomplish that is I got this little deal here I made. This made out of a couple pieces of an old file that I had. Then I differential heat treat it so the bottom part's soft, top part is glass hard. And what I do is I stick the knife inside here, start filing the excess away there. Now, if I was to try to do this when it was hard and after it was hard, and even when I drew a temper on it afterwards, it'd still be too hard to file this down. You could do it, but it would take a lot longer. Of course, wear the heck out of a file too. Once I get down to where I'm even with these guides here, the file's just going to slide now. Very little bit left on there. That's how you know you're all the way down. Of course, the file just want to slide on that. See, it's so hard. Now I'll do the same on this side. Now it looks pretty good. So now we put the hilt on there. It'll look pretty good once we get this all rested, it's cleaned up. The next step we'll do is we clean this blade up and shaping it, then eventually polishing it to the final polish. Then I'll put my stamp in it. Then after that, then we'll harden it. Then we'll draw a temper on it, because once we harden, it'll be too hard for a knife blade. And at that particular point, if you hit it on something, it'd probably break. And so we got to draw some of the hardness out of it. And when we get done, it should be in the neighborhood of 58 maybe to 60 on the Rockwell C scale. So it should make a good knife.
Remember to check back next week. We'll be back in the blacksmith shop for part 2 of our knife making project. And be sure to join 906 Outdoors on Facebook to see where we've been and where we're going. Get in on monthly giveaways and get a glimpse of what's happening around the UP.